Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Margaritas with Marguerita Cheng, CFP Pro. I'm Hope Katz-Gibbs, producer of the show on the Incandescent Radio Network and Incandescent TV. Thrilled to be here with today's guest, Ben Miller, founder of a new organization called ChroniFI. Today's topic, money is time. Today's topic, money is time. Ben says that he built ChroniFI to help people simplify their finances so they can confidently make choices that are aligned with their goals. So we are thrilled to have you on the show, Ben, and I'm going to throw it over to Rita to ask you a bunch of questions.
Happy to
Well,
be here. Thank you.
thank you so much for being here, Ben. And here is to celebrating you, Margaritas with Margarita.
Thanks a lot for having me.
So, Ben, we know that time is money, but as we jump into this, what do you mean by money is time?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think a lot of people are pretty well accustomed to the idea that time is money. You go to your job and you sell your time in order to go get money. But then the second leg of the transaction is oftentimes lost on people. That is, what are we storing up all this money for in the first place? Well, ultimately, it's that second leg of the transaction that can be forgotten, which is that money is time. When you're storing up your money, really, you're just delaying consumption. You're deferring consumption from now until a future date. And so what we try to help people do is figure out, okay, how are you doing in terms of stocking away the right amount of money so that you can really fund your time moving forward?
And one of the things I love is you make sure that people have alignments, right? Sometimes people don't like values. Okay, don't say values, but passions and priorities. So, how does Quantify help people be able to align their resources with their passions and priorities?
In many cases, it's through exactly that. It's through time. What we actually care about. If you go back and look at your calendar for the last week, or you likewise go and look at your calendar for the next week, well, whatever's on those calendars, that's what you express. That's what you actually care about as expressed by your actions. We say we care about these certain things. We've got these passions and priorities and all these things, but where you're devoting your time is ultimately how we act upon them. And so what we do is we try and give people clarity when it comes to, okay, where does this decision, where does this trade-off fit into the context of my life as a whole, given my values, given my priorities, given my passions, so that I can understand, okay, if I do this, here's what I'm getting, here's what I'm giving. Is that a good trade for me or not? And does that get me to be living the type of life that is aligned with those passions and priorities?
Wonderful. And I know you talk a lot about clarity and simplicity. There's a lot of clarity and simplicity. What role does simplicity play in personal finance?
It's a wonderful question. Clarity is of paramount importance when it comes to understanding finances, particularly because nobody's educated on finances. I myself going to 4 years of college and then landing on Wall Street, I didn't learn anything about personal finance in either one of those places. So what chance does the rest of the population have to stumble upon those facts? Basically, we're all wandering around, and one of the most important parts of our life, i.e., our finances, is just something we've never learned about. And so, what we can do as professionals in the financial space is we can actually ultimately simplify things so that people can understand the numbers. Because if you tell somebody, oh, inflation is going to be X, or your real return is going to be Y, or all these other financial bells and whistles, for most people, that's going to go right over their head. And how couldn't it? They've never been properly taught about this stuff unless they have particularly good parents or an unusual degree. But what we can do by simplifying these things into terms they actually intuitively grasp is help them to make better decisions even without that complex finance degree, even without that, massive experience within the field. Because when you put things in units of time, ultimately, a lot of the time, the answers drop right out and people can understand, oh, okay, this sushi habit is delaying my retirement by 3 months. Then I know either, wow, I didn't realize it was that much. Maybe I'll cut back. Or I can say, you know what? That's not scary. I love my job, and sushi night is date night with my wife. That's the relationship that's at the bedrock of my family. So I'm going to invest even more in that. It's all about knowing the trade-off and acting in alignment with your priorities.
No, thank you for that. And you can share a success story. Um, So, how has Quantify helped people make better decisions? I mean, you know it does, but a success story.
Yeah, sure. There are two that I really love. One is one that I would have predicted when I was building the software, and another is one that completely hit me by surprise. And so the more kind of predictable one, a use case that I kind of built the software exactly to be used for. There's a person who was on paternity leave, trying to figure out where does this job fit into my life. Trying to understand if he should stay at his erstwhile employer or whether he had what it took to move on to a startup that was better aligned with his priorities and values. And so when he boiled all his numbers down into simplicity with ChroniFI, he saw, oh, okay, I'm in a better position than I thought. I guess it's time to move on. He moved on to his next job. Now, another one that really took me by surprise was somebody who had a job that was great and that was well aligned with his values and really, was a lucky job for him to have, but he was getting burnt out. He was just having too many projects, 16 projects where he was only supposed to have three, burning the candle at both ends. And then by boiling his numbers again down to simplicity with Chronify, he had this realization that, oh, I don't need this job. And so that gave him psychological leverage to go to his employer and say, actually, you know what? I love this job. It's exactly what I want right now. It's just too much. Can I have an assistant to help me continue to perform this role the way that it was intended to be performed? And what do you think his employer did? Gave him an assistant. And so it's better for him. It's better for the employer. Everybody gets what they want out of the situation, and all of that stems from the clarity of understanding. Here's where this job fits into my life, and here's what I need to change in order to continue to make that work for everybody involved.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that because the alternative is like, oh, I'm burnt out, I'm leaving. But this
Right.
way, it truly is win win win. Life doesn't have to
Yes.
be lose win or win lose or lose lose.
100%. The worst thing that can happen to an employer is a surprise. Uh-oh, this guy's out and I needed him here tomorrow. This can encourage conversation, and it can encourage also can help people understand, like, wow, I didn't realize my employer was really chipping in all these other ways. This job is a much better deal than I might have thought just looking at the paycheck. And this also helps keep people, helps people at jobs that are fulfilling in ways beyond money, because they can understand, oh, okay, this is enough. This is sufficient. I can continue to get where I want to be. And I don't have to go take that giant paycheck from the employer down the street, because this right here is everything.
That's perfect. I love that. I kind of know this, but I think it's important for people to hear your story. Why did you start Codify?
So I was at a job that was one that I felt very lucky to have, but it wasn't fulfilling me in all the ways that I wanted to be fulfilled. So I was at Goldman Sachs on a trading floor, ridiculously lucky to have a job like that. And it was an amazing place to start a career. But I came to a point where I wanted to build something of my own, where I wanted to, get out there and really help people and solve some of their problems and things like that. And so I built ChroniFi essentially to solve my own problem of trying to figure out, do I have enough to move on to what's next in my life, to move on to that next chapter. My wife and I visited Colorado a few years ago. We were then living on the East Coast. And on the way home from that trip to Colorado, my wife asked me, so when are we moving? And so Chronify is kind of my attempt to do what any dutiful husband would do and code up the answer to that question so that I could, come back with a good answer on that. Meanwhile, I had a daughter who was, at that point too, she's now 6, and she was telling me her favorite thing to do was to walk on grass. And so as somebody who grew up in the Midwest, I was thinking, man, I got to get this girl some grass to walk on. And so really it was one of those moments in life where the personal side of things and the financial side of things seemed to be at odds with one another until I looked at them with the right perspective, and then the answers dropped right out.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. So, as we wind things down, um, financial planning is art and science, right? It's
Mhm.
not just the quant, but it's the qualitative. So,
Mhm.
with that in mind, why is behavior such an important part of financial planning?
It's a wonderful question. And the more that I've kind of come to know more and more about financial planning over the past, several months, the more I've come to understand that there's a traditional way and there's a new way. And so the traditional way tends to, in many cases, be focused very much around optimization around things like taxes, investments, and some real kind of accounting types of functions to help people understand how they can get more once they already have money. But what financial planning historically hasn't done so much of is help people get that more money saved up in the first place. And so, really, where we are focused, that is ChroniFI, on the behavioral side of things, can help not just people who have, a million plus in assets or things like that, which is often when they become, attractive to financial planners and financial advisors and folks like that, but also to help basically anybody who's somewhere between liftoff and escape velocity. To help somebody who's got their monthlies the right way around and just wants to figure out, how can I win this game? How can I get myself to a point where I am, the type of client that a financial planner would actually want to have in many cases, a traditional financial planner? How can I win this game? And behavior is a giant part of that. When you look at the equation of personal finance, the single biggest factor in how that all shakes out is your expenses. It's the tail that wags the dog. And so far, it hasn't really been addressed as much as it needs to be within a planning context by at least many, many planners. And so what we've found, as a company entering this space, is that there's a huge lane to run in here. There's a huge ability that we can have to partner with people who are in that realm, in the financial planning realm, that is, and really make it no fuss, no muss. Really make it the type of thing that if they want to dive in and help their clients on the behavioral side of things and engage with them between meetings and help them move every part of their personal finance journey forward, then great. We've got a great way for them to keep engagement between meetings, keep the meeting prep to a minimum, leverage insights to have really interesting discussions so that planners can focus on exactly what they probably got into planning in the first time to do, which is to help people on a personal level to understand, how does my money align with my passion and my priorities, helping them to really, hold their hands, focus on the relationship side while we leave the spreadsheeting and bean counting software.
Well, thank you for that. And last, but certainly not least, how can people learn more? So here's the opportunity for you to share a website and social media handles.
Sure. Yeah. So you can find all of us, you can find everything about us at www.chronify.com. I'm on LinkedIn, and I've got a podcast as well. That's the ChroniFI podcast. Otherwise, I try to stay off social as much as possible and keep the time for driving the business forward. And most importantly, spending time with my family.
Thank you so much, Ben. Now back to you.
Thank you, Rita. Ben, that's so lovely, sweet. And so I hope more men take on that responsibility and do the right thing for their families first. So, and your company sounds amazing. So thank you for being on Margaritas with Marguerita Cheng, CFP Pro, trying to get that class to show. And we look forward to sharing more of your smart savviness with our viewers and listeners. So thank you again, Ben Miller, founder of ChroniFI. Thank you, Ms. Marguerita Cheng. Please tune in next Friday for the next episode of Margaritas with Margarita. I'm Hope Katz-Gibbs, producer of the show on the Incandescent Radio Network and Incandescent TV. We will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for being part of our Incandescent Radio and TV family. This is Hope Katz-Gibbs, founder of Incandescent Incorporated, the PR and publishing company for women entrepreneurs. Our Incandescent Radio and TV shows are brought to you by our advertisers and clients. Margaritas with Marguerita Cheng, CFP Pro, brings us 15 minutes of tips every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Facebook Live, where you'll meet experts who are helping us flex our financial muscles. Find all of the episodes at margaritacheng.com. You'll also meet intuitive psychotherapist Kara Keem, who interviews therapists and other intuitive guides from around the world. Learn more at karakeem.com. And you're going to love social justice expert Karen Hanrahan, CEO of the San Francisco-based Glide Memorial Foundation. She bridges the gap from local impact to global change on her Thought Leadership show on Incandescent Radio. Learn more about Karen at KarenHanrahan.com. You're also going to love Alina Liao, founder of the radical wellness journaling company, ZenitJournals.com. Alina asks, have you tried to journal but found it hard to keep up? Zenit makes it easier to journal for your wellness. With Zenit, you can customize your journal with prompts that speak to you. No more blank pages. Your Zenit is your personalized space to take care of yourself. Website, zenitjournals.com. Feel it, write it, Zenit. You'll also meet amazing Tracy Schott, founder of Voices for Change. Tracy is determined to change the world and end domestic violence. Learn more at voicesforchange.net. And we are so thrilled to be publishing a book for Angela Mitchell, who is the tech expert of case management. And she's also the founder of this fabulous organization, Kids Code 2. She is determined to teach kids to code computers. Talk about teaching a kid to fish. We invite you to discover and peruse all the Incandescent Incorporated websites, the magazine For Women, By Women, About Women, incandescentwomen.com. Our health and wellness magazine is beincandescent.com, the business of mind, body, spirit, soul, and heart. Our YouTube channel is incandescent.tv, and you can learn about our PR and book publishing services at incandescent.us. If you'd like to have your own radio and video show, check us out at incandescentradio.com, where you can see what we can do for you. These podcasts are also featured on iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Our podcasts are produced by Brandy Wilsker. Our videos are produced by Nelson Benavides. Our website developer is Max Cucoy, and our incandescent illustrator and designer is Michael Glenwood Gibbs. If you'd like to learn more, please send me an email, hope@hopegibbs.com. Here is to your incredible, indelible, incandescent success. Much love and many